manipulation tactics. See, this video has been inspired by my recent video about the silent treatment. When people give you the silent treatment, it's incredibly important to pay attention to your reactions. What happens to you when you experience the silent treatment? Because again, it's one of those tactics that result in us, if you're not careful, forgive me, empaths, if you're not careful, it's one of the manipulation tactics that result in you saying yes when internally you really want to say no. So we must pay good attention to manipulation and the impact of that in terms of our behavior. Now, in terms of manipulation tactics, we all know that, well, I trust you know by now that the silent treatment is one tactic that can be used to control you. But ultimately, it's not about the manipulation. It's not about the silent treatment. What it really is about is how you respond to that situation. So if someone goes quiet on you, mute on you, silent on you, doesn't respond to you, what happens within you? That is what you need to pay attention to. Because if we are not self-aware, if we aren't developing our consciousness around these dynamics, it will result often in us falling back into our default positions, where we do what we've always been done. And if you continuous to do what you've always been done, and that results in you feeling trapped and going round in vicious cycles, not great for your greatness. Not great for your greatness. So it can be really important to pay attention to how you react to manipulation tactics. That is a game changer. Instead of focusing on them and then you doing what you've always been doing, the key is to begin to observe yourself, to notice you, and then this, if you follow this through, empowers you to make choices. Observe rather than react, yeah? Rather than just doing what you've always done. This is important. If you have any questions or queries, feel free to post. Because as I said before, and I said in my newsletter, my ambition is to help you become much more clear about who you are so that you become much more informed. You see, ultimately, self-awareness is crucial and fundamental to your wellness. And one of the challenges many of us empaths have is we lack self-awareness. We're often hyper aware of other people. I'm getting my backdrop up to speed here, right? I'm hoping you're appreciating my shelves. Been running around IKEA getting these, right? But one of the things we do is we give in to people, yeah? And we respond often, not always, but from our childhood wounds. So you need to pay attention. If you have any questions or queries, please post them down below. And I'm always happy to respond. Again, another tactic to be mindful of is the guilt tripping. Yeah? Guilt tripping is the ultimate way to control you. And you, like many of the empaths that I meet on my course or who phone me up looking for support, is they want to be able to deal with the guilt tripping. You know? But one of the biggest challenges with guilt is it is the ultimate supreme tool to control and manipulate you. And for many of us, we must pay attention if that's been historical. If you've been controlled and manipulated throughout your life, then your default is to react. This is normal for you. This is what you've always done. You react to it, which is why when you enter into relationships and then the challenge comes, well, the ultimate challenge is that you are responding from a well-rehearsed role for yourself. So how do you begin to deal with overcoming guilt tripping? Because for many of us, what we're doing is we're doing all the research, right? You're reading all the books. But why is your life not changing? Why are you stuck? Why are you still going round in vicious circles? What's the missing link? And the challenge for many of us empaths is we will experience, it's not about head knowledge. The ultimate challenge is when you begin to put your boundaries in place, what we can't cope with, what we find difficult, and this is where we doubt ourselves, is we find it very difficult to deal with the emotional reactions. So because guilt has been, well, it's the supreme way to control and manipulate you, what happens is your guilt kicks in and you respond and function from guilt. This is why you can't put boundaries in place. This is why you can read, like I said, you can read all the books. But how do you infuse what you know into your life in a realistic way that is helpful to you? If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask your girl Key. This is an opportunity. Ask the questions that baffle you, cripple you, and like have you going around and like, why am I still here? Why am I still stuck? There's a reason you're stuck. Because like I say to many people, this is not, the situation you're in is not about having a head knowledge. You can read all the books. Many people come to me, they know more than me. But this is a psychological, emotional issue. And that's a very different place to be. Because what you need is clarity. And that is one of the reasons why for World Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day, I have my 3-day challenge designed to help you get understanding, a deeper understanding of the situation you find yourself in. Because let's be frank, we know it's no joke. Yeah. And when we look at the long-lasting consequences, this has a detrimental impact on your mental health, your finance, your quality of life. It's no joke out there. Did I see a question there? What was that one? What was that? Oh man, that moved. This is the first time I'm using this one, so do forgive me. I think it's gone. Live chat. I feel like a child. I go into myself. So for you, if you feel like a child and you go into yourself, well, the challenge is you're responding from your wounded child. And my assumption would be that actually, even though you're dealing with a narcissistic individual, there is something about the situation you find yourself in that's very familiar. So we're responding from our wounded child. And although we're 45 years old, grown adults, don't underestimate the wounded child. She functions within us. And so as a therapist, one aspect of the way that I help people can be, not always, but it is to integrate your wounded child into your adult self. This is a profound and powerful way to assist you. Yeah? It's about paying attention to yourself. Paying attention to yourself, to who you are. It's not comfortable. What you find yourself in is not a comfortable situation. But like I said, read the books, watch the YouTube channels, get to understand what you're dealing with. But one of the things that I have, and I'm passionate about advocating for many of my empaths, is when do you need to stop researching the narcissist? Is it time to stop researching the narcissist? Is it time to start looking at you? Because ultimately, our choices are profound in terms of how they impact our life. Choices create your reality. The choices you make inform your reality. And I believe that if you want to change your life, and I know they're very difficult people. Let's not pretend about this. Let me just check this plant, make sure I watered it, yeah? Because sometimes I forget. Yeah? Yeah? If you're not happy with your life, I get it. Something's amiss. And yeah, narcissists are difficult. But there might be choices that you're making unintentionally, unconsciously, that are having adverse impacts on your life. And actually, that is what needs to be scrutinized. So be mindful about observing them, doing this about them, because you might miss the biggest main point, which is about you and my capacity to tolerate the nonsense. The moving the goalposts. Empaths, if you're out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Moving the goalposts is particularly dangerous because what that actually results in, it's a bit like this circle, right? If in this circle you're prepared to tolerate this, what happens when they move the goalpost is, instead of tolerating this in this circle of tolerance, your tolerance perpetually grows bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. This is how you wake up one day and people taking the downright pee out of you. It's because the goalposts keep moving. And as the goalposts move, your tolerance for nonsense is being challenged. This is why I'm a massive advocate. You call it out in the morning. If you're empath or you've been through traumatic experiences before, you are highly likely, unconsciously, I don't care what self-help book you've read, yeah, how much therapy you've done, you are highly attuned and highly likely to meet similar people who will use and abuse you. You get it, Cheryl? Boom, boom, good news. Good to hear, right? You're highly likely to meet similar people. So when we start online dating, I know you feel like you've got your groove back. You might have a new frock, had your hair done, eyebrows done, may even had a boob job, and so on and so forth. But you must be careful because you have all the skills to tolerate nonsense. We have to be able to look after ourselves. And if you are dating, it's a really crucial time, because if this circle of tolerance, if the goalposts keep moving and then they push your boundary, your tolerance will keep growing. The next thing you know, you're in a relationship where you're incredibly violated. We must pay attention. And this is one of the reasons why I encourage people, call it out in the morning, especially if you're dating. Now, if you're in a longer term relationship and it's been going on for a while, much more tricky for you. Much more tricky because your lives become intertwined, finances become intertwined, assets, potentially children, marriage. It gets much more complex. Any questions that you have, feel free to ask your girl Key. Welcome what I control, my reaction, my behavior. Ultimately, Cece, that is all you have control and power over. Because research has its place, but unless you plan to train as a psychotherapist, a psychologist, or you want to work in prisons with people who have personality disorders, you know, be careful about that. But when people move the goalpost, one of the challenges us as empaths have is we're not comfortable with conflict. So we might try to smooth things over. We do it for the quiet life. We don't want to rock the boat. But in your desire to not rock boats, you paved way for disrespect, disregard, and violation in your future. Call it out in the morning. Not always easy if you're in a longer term relationship. I totally understand that. If you have a question, please ask. Always happy to answer to help you to understand you. My ambition is to help you to understand you, so you go like, oh, that's why I do that. That is a beautiful moment in therapy, the epiphany, when it all begins to make sense. But it's very difficult for us empathic people. You see, you have to truly understand that they will not love you. They will not regard you in the way that you hoped. And despite all your best efforts, despite your going above and beyondness, they won't get it. Because so many of us get trapped at this stage, and you keep reading the books. So you know a great deal. I get it. But ultimately you're in bondage. And if you don't want to be in bondage, if you desire more for yourself, if you want to be able to move on and up with your life and overcome the tricky situation that you find yourself in, that's the inner work. One of the things that we do as empaths is we're often looking outside of ourselves, needing the thumbs up, needing the validation. Why? Self-doubt. You doubt yourself. Question for you to ponder upon. Why do you doubt yourself so much? Where has that come from? Feel free to ask. Any questions that you may have, always happy to answer for you. It's your girl, Key. So manipulation tactics. One of the challenges we have is we just do not call out bad behavior. Why? Because we do it for the quiet life. We don't want to be problematic. Yeah. We don't want to cause problems. Manipulation. So what do? Push it under the rug. But you have to understand, pushing things under the rug, you're confused about why you might be depressed or why you've gone to your doctors and they've offered you medication. Well, often it's the pushing things under the rugs. Pushing things under the rug will get you there. Why? Because what you're dealing with is avoidance. Uncomfortable truth, brace yourself. You may not like it. Any problem you avoid gets worse. Simple science. You avoid it, it will get worse. If I get letters from my bank and I choose to not open them, yeah, because I want to live my best life, yeah, cool, no problem. But those problems aren't going anywhere. And if avoidance is a tactic that you employ to deal with your situation, you'll be vulnerable. This is why for World Narcissist Abuse Awareness Day, I have my 3-day challenge. All designed to help develop your awareness, education, and to get you support. Because when you're dealing with a true narcissist, a true bugger, you can't do it alone. Your friends will get bored of you. You'll keep going round in cycles. You'll read all the books, but you'll be perplexed. Why do I still yearn for this idiot who has abused, used me, and taken my kindness for weakness? Questions, feel free to ask below. Huh? Why do you still yearn for them? You've read all the books. You know exactly what you're dealing with. But when the night comes in and you're alone, you yearn. What is that about for you? It's perplexing. I truly understand. But we have to understand what that need is for us. That need for love. That need to be valued. Often, for many of us, not in all cases, but it's actually about a bigger wound that comes from our yesteryear. Any questions you have an opportunity to ask me right now. Why not take this opportunity? Because you know your girl Key. I can chat. I can ad-lib for hours. I am in this every day. Well, welcome what I can, because all my life I've felt not good enough. Absolutely, Cece. So what you have, Cece, is an inferiority complex. Don't worry about it. It's okay. You're not alone. Many of us have it. You never feel good enough. And often what happens if you have an inferiority complex, it means you go into your intimate relationships with the baggage, hoping that that person will validate you, complete you, and fulfill you, right? So as empaths, when we don't feel good enough, we lug that feeling, that feeling of inadequacy, we lug it into our intimate relationships, and we want that person to make us feel whole. Houston, you gonna have a problem. Because once again, massive big issue for us empaths, especially if we've had tricky childhoods, is you're looking for the validation outside of yourself. And people change their minds. 1 minute they can be reliable, dependable, and consistent. The next, you're baffled about how you give this person such prominence in your life, because for whatever reason, they have changed their mind. Humans change their minds. So when you're in, you're in, and when you are out, you are out. And this is the benefit of working on yourself, finding your passion, unfurling your potential. Cece, what is it that you want for your life? What are your passions? What are your interests? What do you say no to? Because you're sitting there on the endless scroll, thinking about what this person did to you, that you don't get love. When was the last time you got out of your comfort zone? When was the last time you did something different? You're responsible for your own life. Nobody's coming here to save you. I tell people this all the time. When clients come to see me, they're like, oh, I've been watching your videos, Key. You're right. No one ain't coming to save you. This is not Disney. It's the real life. We must learn to save ourselves. So we must be careful about manipulation. Manipulation will rob you. And manipulation is one of the ways that you end up going round and round in vicious circles. And for many of us empaths, we've had traumatic childhoods, we may have not got the love that we've needed, our parents may not have prized us or made us feel like we were worthy. Be careful of flattery. I know it sounds a bit bizarre, but if someone overly flatters you perpetually, pedestals you, like makes you the best thing since sliced bread, be mindful. That as well can be a part of the peaks and the troughs, that roller coaster. It's one of the ways that they grip us and pull us in, because we may have felt seen by this individual. And it's such a beautiful thing to be seen and acknowledged by somebody. You feel happy. It's like, yeah, finally somebody gets me. So I'm not saying don't become distrustful of people, because that's the other extreme. Often one of the consequences of narcissistic abuse is we can just not trust humans anymore. And that's understandable, I get it. But if you want to love again, then maybe in time you might be open. And it's not about just assuming everybody's wrong or they're distrustful, everyone's a narcissist. That leaves you paranoid. And that will mean that the narcissist and what they've done to you lives on forever. We want to love again. We want to be vulnerable again, but we have to be much more mindful. We're getting older and wiser. We're not the naive people. But if you're an empathic person who goes from narcissistic abusive relationship to abusive relationship, Houston, we have a problem. And my encouragement to you is inbox me, sign up for a call, let's have a conversation. There are ways that I can help you. My group program, Navigate Narcissism Now, we have a challenge at the end of May for World Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day. Join us. We want to support you. I'm here to support you because I love to see people thrive. I'm passionate about seeing people transform their lives. And so when the manipulation tactics kick in, no longer are you reacting to them. You can stand and observe them. That's the key. To not be continuously reacting. Many of us empaths, we have a very passionate desire to smooth things over. We need to smooth things over. And actually, in many instances, it's not great for us. If you're a smooth overer, a term I made up, then what will the impact of that be? When you smooth things over all the time because you can't cope with conflict, what will happen to you in due course? You get long-term gain, short-term gain, long-term pain. It will come back and bite you. It's one of the ways we end up spoiling people. We say yes for the quiet life. Any questions you have, feel free to ask me. Bang it in a chat. I'll do the best I can with the knowledge I have available to me at this particular time to help and answer you. Yeah? Be careful of doing things for the quiet life. Because doing things for the quiet life, I have seen it rob people of their own lives. It's one of the ways they wake up one day, don't know who they are, and they're lost, depressed. Doctors offered them tablets, they signed off work, and then they're like, Key, I need to chat to you. Key, it's gone a bit too far. We need to learn to be proactive in supporting ourselves. This is your life we are talking about here. So pay attention. But like I said, one of the most important manipulation tactics is actually trading on your self-doubt. Many empaths, we don't believe in ourselves. Like my friend here said tonight, she said, never feeling good enough. If you never feel good enough, that will fuel an inferiority complex. And if an inferiority complex is set in, when you go into intimate relationships, that will have a massive function on your life. Here we go here, because all my life, I've never felt good enough. I want to have experiences, just not existing. I want a loving relationship. And that good, oh, where's it gone? Where's my comments gone? Live, top chat. I want a loving relationship, that good men exist. I believe in love now. I'm awakened now. I'm mindful. Cece, I would encourage you to sign up for the 3-day challenge. I will put the link below. If you're on my email list, do let me know. Because there are good, loving men out there. But often, like I said, we are coming from our wounds. And we need to be able to check that. Because if you don't check that, it's highly likely you're going to go from selfish man to selfish man. And for many of us, if we're desperate to be loved, if our history of intimate relationships has not been one that is good, and we've always felt like people have taken our kindness for weakness, you've got to be careful. Pay attention. Call out inconsistencies. But sometimes we don't want to call out inconsistencies because we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to be alone again. So we tolerate it. We keep our mouths shut and we do it for the quiet life. But I'll tell you this, the quiet life will rob you of your life. 5 years later, you're still being mute. And the the violations potentially could increase. But again, it's a choice. Well, unconsciously, you may not realize it, but you do make a choice. And I respect that many of us are stuck. Many of us are in complex situations. We can't just get up and walk out of the door. We've got kids, financial agreements, houses. It's not that simple. I think I've touched on tonight guilt tripping. We've also looked at when they keep moving the goalposts. We've looked at silent treatment. If you've got a question, please ask. I'm happy to give you my answers. Another manipulation tactic is the love bombing or / hush money. What ways are you compensated for their bad behavior? Is there hush money about? Or when they've been really bad, do they treat you? Does something happen? In every relationship, there will be ruptures. That's basic. In any relationship, there'll be ruptures. But it's the repair you need to pay attention to. Is it you doing all the repair? Or is it two-way? If they give you the silent treatment, do you then rush in? Because it's intolerable to you? Do you smooth it over? Do you make things okay? That's fine. It's your choice. Make a choice. If you choose to do it, that's different. Let your girl Key know. Comments below. But love bombing works when you're naive. When you're not clued up, love bombing is brilliant. Oh, I loved some love bombing. Flowers and chivalry. Absolutely appreciated it. Within a couple of days, that wore off. I was back in and disregarded again. Is that what you want for your life? Love bombing works when you're naive and you're not clued up. The more clued up you become, is the more you'll see it, observe it. and notice it. When you don't react, when you observe, when you notice, you make an empowered choice. It's now 9 o'clock, and if you have any question, please post them below. This video has been about manipulation tactics. We've looked at the silent treatment, love bombing, gaslighting, all the typical things that people do that have control and dominion over your life. If you are at a point where what you're doing is no longer working and you think that you need support to help you to move on and up with your life, feel free, put a comment below or reach out to me at keyforchange.com. It could be your time to try something different. Many of the people that I have worked with have got to the point where doing it alone is that's what happens. And I think that's the most perplexing bit. It's perplexing, isn't it? Because you know it all, you've read the books, you get it, but your life, you're still stuck. The game changer is to get support. Because depending on your situation and the levels of manipulation you're experiencing, there's only so far you can go alone. I hope this video has been of benefit to one of the souls out there. My name is Keeley Taverner. I am a qualified, experienced psychotherapist who helps my empaths learn, heal, and understand narcissist abuse so they can harness adversity for their greater good. Does narcissists know they are manipulating? Does a narcissist know that they're manipulating? That's a very good question. Well, my question back to you is, why do you want to know that answer? Often one of the reasons people ask me that question is because they don't want it to be true. They don't want their situation to be true. I'm making an assumption. It may not be true, but what I have learned along my time as a psychotherapist is many empathic people embroiled in these situations, we are desperate for the narcissist to change. God, Jesus Christ, if I tell him he's a narcissist, if I give him all the books, surely he'll get it and be like, oh my God, he'll have an epiphany, like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been such a narcissist, and he'll change. This is an assumption based on your question. I'll answer your question, but I've had these questions many times before, and usually there's an underlying, if he knew he was being cruel, would he change? The reality is, for often many people with narcissistic qualities, it's something they've done all their life. It's not something they question. They're savvy people. I've worked in prisons. Look, this isn't just I've floated into this information. I've worked with people who are high risk in a place of punishment, in prisons with psychopaths, sociopaths, and narcissists. It's a part of their persona. It's a part of what they do. They can't help it. It's a part of their way of being. It's too delicious not to. Their ego drives from it. It benefits them to be that way. Why would they want to give it up? Because I tell you, if it's not you, they'll just move on to the next supply. Their ego must be fed. And they need naive people who are not challenging, who often accept the status quo, which is why people who are highly agreeable, people with highly agreeable traits, who will often be highly empathic, are very susceptible and vulnerable to these individuals. Why do you want to know if the narcissist knows that they're manipulative? Will they, like, what? There is a massive intention you have under that, I believe, which is that if they knew that they were being manipulative, would they change? Their lifestyle works for them. It benefits them. People don't change unless they're often, the real true reason why people change is because they're uncomfortable in their current situation. Their current situation has become so uncomfortable that they're forced to change. People don't just like, oh, I'm going to change today. No. People change because what they're doing is no longer working. And actually, even though they fear change, they know that I best to embrace change, because staying here, continuing to do what I'm doing is not working. So I may as well try something else. It's like a probability they have. They do the equations like, well, this ain't working. And many empathic people, we've exhausted all options. This is how we end up staying in these relationships for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We exhaust all options before we say, you know what, yeah, maybe I need to go and chat to someone. But the challenge is nowadays people are learning quicker and faster about narcissism. Quicker and faster, people are Googling, they're understanding quicker and faster, which is great, because it's incredibly traumatic to be manipulated and controlled. It would diminish your life, your health. It would diminish you. But you have to understand, this is really about you. It's always going to be about you. Your reaction to manipulation, what you do about manipulation, and how you regard and look after yourself. If you are not prepared to put yourself first, if your situation means that you want the narcissist to change, and I understand why, I get why we all want them to change. But we have to be mindful. Give yourself a time limit. Say, you know what, I'm going to give this relationship a year, 2 years, before you say, you know what, I'm going to have to jump out. That is one of the most kindest things that you can do for yourself. Narcissists know that they're crafty individuals. Of course they do. But it's how they've operated, and it has equipped them well. Some argue that narcissists don't want to change. Have I seen some narcissistic individuals change? Yeah, I have. And I've seen them change in very profound ways. But I'm not the therapist to help them. Is narcissism ego based on the core? I don't know what that means, Cece. I don't know what that means, but we all have egos. Sometimes a lot of us empaths, when we're at the early stages of our involvement, we assume that we don't have an ego. Empaths also have an ego. We believe, our ego thinks that if we love them enough, do enough, be kind enough, they'll value us and pedestal us. Ain't great for your greatness, empaths. That's the empath's ego. Empath's ego is also, you need to focus on your ego. When you ask me questions about narcissism, it's no problem. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm always going to flip it back to you. This is about your ego. You may be of the view that because you've done X, Y, Z, that they should appreciate and value you. Actually, they have targeted you. You've been targeted. And we need to wise up. Wisen up. You're most welcome, NA. I know that was a little bit raw, potentially a little bit real, but, you know, someone's got to, let's be honest about it. And I get it. We want them to change, especially when our lives are set up, right? We've committed. Naturally, we want them to change. But it can leave you in a very difficult predicament. Time ticks. And by the time you know it, like I said, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. I've worked with people in stuff for 40, 50 years. Your life, it could rob you of your life. So my encouragement to you is set time frames. My name is Keeley Taverner. I am a qualified, experienced psychotherapist helping my empath crew navigate a tricky, complex world so that they can best look after themselves, so that the empathy never ever feels like a curse. My encouragement to you is, if this speaks to you, I got a question. I don't know why I asked the question, but you actually clarified it beautifully for me. Thank you, my sister. Thank you. I'm not the therapist for everybody, But for people who are open to hearing it spoken straight, listen, I'm not the therapist to sit there and let you wind on and go on, and I'm just going to sit there like, okay, yes, no, that's not going to happen. I will challenge you because I have the desire for you to heal your life. I want you to move on. I want you to understand it so you get it and you make informed choices. Listen, I've worked with people who've chosen to stay. No problem if you choose to stay. I get it. Kids, finances, assets, too much ripples, no problem. But as long as you make a conscious choice to stay, you know that that's what you're dealing with. You know that you're dealing with this and that you make a empowered choice. I'm staying because of X, Y, Z. But that question is always loaded. The question is, does this person really understand that they're being horrible and awkward? The truth is, I believe, of course they do. But it's very beneficial behavior to them. It's been advantageous. And most people do not want to give up behavior that has got them advantage. My name is Keeley Taverner. I am a qualified, experienced psychotherapist helping my empath crew navigate a tricky, complex world. If you need help and assistance, feel free to get in contact. My details will be below. And for World Narcissist Abuse Awareness Day on the 1st of June, sign up for my 3-day challenge where we will be focusing on education, support to assist you to contend with your issue. It is complex and there isn't 1, 2, 3 steps out. Let's be clear. But understanding, education, and learning and support is a superb, supreme way to begin. Rome was not built in a day. I am Keeley Taverner. Do take care of you, because if you don't, who will, empaths? Who will?